Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, May the 4th. Oh, I just realized it is Star Wars Day, May the 4th. May the Force be with you with the lisp. This is Nadex Morning Analysis. My name is Todd Rich. With me, my good friend Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple. We are going to talk about some potential hotspots to look at in the markets today. Before Brian and I get into it, I do need to share this quick disclosure or disclaimer that trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone, that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk, and that this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your educational purposes. So, to quickly tee up what we're going to talk about today, there has not been a lot of news out there to move the markets. We are seeing equities a little soft. That being said, we are going to be looking at just straight up price action. Price action does give opportunities. You tend to see from a technical level where buyers and sellers tend to step into the market, all supply and demand. We are seeing the pound. We're going to actually look at the British pound again, simply because it had been making a significant run up, showing some strength, and it's simply giving back some of that. It's showing some weakness against the US dollar and the yen. We're going to take a look at those charts, and we're going to tee you up. Oil is also making a move, and we're going to take a look at the oil chart, and we're going to talk about we're going to talk a little bit about trading around news events, and there's a reason for that. We'll get to it. So that's just a little bit of a teaser. Brian, I am going to flip it over to you. We could talk about the pound first.
All right. Yeah, sure. I mean, as I mentioned yesterday, guys, you can see there's really the only thing we had was that late night Australian news that came in. And again, we talk about, there not being news and movement. I mean, basically the Australian currency is basically going straight down right now. It was very, very weak. And we talked about that being kind of the big headline, right? Some of the things in here, and again, we talked about, are they going to start tapering like Canada did? And the answer is no. Right now it's saying, hey, listen, we see inflation and wage increases, and it's going to be moderately incremental. And again, we're going back. And then the inflation forecast is 1.5 in 2021 and 2 by mid-23, which is what, a third of what we're seeing in the United States already, as well as the UK. So it's kind of interesting that they're like, oh, there's no inflation. We're good. Which is strange because gold is an export for them. So it kind of goes against the grain of what we're seeing. Now, what does that do, and why is that moving, and why are we talking about the pound today? Well, here's what's going on in the pound. Yesterday, we were sitting approximately right here yesterday. If you guys can see where my cursor is. And we talked about this has been a very, very big run up. Now, the daily ATR, and again, the ATR is the true average, or the average true range, is about kind of what you would assume, it's based off an average of how much it can move in a particular day. We've mentioned this word before, that parabolic move. Well, this was up 132 pips by the time we finally got a reversal. Now, we were looking for it to go a little bit higher, and again, you got to love the extreme ranges. We mentioned there'd be a small area here, but we did mention, hey, listen, you got to watch this. There's going to be an area of sellers stepping in right around that level, and you can see how close we got to it. Now, this is a very, very, and again, if there's any beginners out there, this is an exact reason why I personally do not trade support and resistance. Everybody can see this. This was a very, very easy trap. We were waiting for it to go a little bit higher. And could you have gotten entry into this one? Yeah, probably. But again, another thing to kind of combine this with is the fact that it was a 10:30 in the morning reversal. It's the most common time of reversals that exist. We mention it all the time. And this is what's called profit taking. Okay, since that time, the only news that we have heard is inflation estimates being lower, countries globally saying, yeah, no, we're still in this. We're going to see a little bit, but it's not that great. And again, the lack of news didn't necessarily help. Now, this is a combination of two things. The pound basically profit-taking from yesterday's huge run-up, the 10:30 reversal, as well as the dollar basically retracing its losses. Remember, it was dollar week Monday morning. It tends to retrace. 10:30 is the time for it to do that, and it started to push back down. Now, what we do with it right now, I would say, again, the U.S. traders coming online 8:30 in the morning. I would say ideally, and again, we had this one level we talked about, and you can see that it bounced off of here, bounced it again, and then kind of pushed up and pushed lower from it again. I would say that, as far as high quality levels, with a lack of news today, 138.11 is definitely something I would keep on my radar. As far as top pieces, obviously keep that top one up there, but you got to be focusing on kind of this area here as well. Probably something around 139.20. So there are some buyers. I mean, this is an area right here. You can see where there's some buyers. Again, I don't need this purple. That was for one of the other charts. You can see there's an area of buyers sitting right here, and that's kind of what we're approaching right now. Being 850, it's kind of a little bit premature as far as big dollar, coming in, but I'd say at this point, if we can continue to push down and hit this 138.11 at that 10:30 time frame, that could be an area where we bounce as well. Basically, straight up profit taking is what brought us back down again. Lack of any really true news, and again, all the news for the UK is really Thursday. Now we're pushing back down, and there'll be profit taking on the opposite end. So could we bounce up? Yeah, sure, possibly. Again, there'll be no blockbuster headlines for the pound.
Great. I do want to put this chart up. This is the pound chart that I had used from yesterday, and you can see we've got that range up at the top, that the same one that Brian's got, and this one down below as well. This is that range that I was talking about yesterday, and that was sort of in the middle. It was a little bit no man's land, but that was that. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, this is a full retracement. The pound. We had, this was on Friday. We had the pound getting killed. Then we had, all that the pound getting all that strength back. It was a full parabolic retracement, and we simply rolled over right around that level. Now we're sort of sitting in no man's land. Not quite sure. It is rather interesting. We do have this level that I'm going to drag this out from here, where we're trying. It's not really. I mean, it's kind of chopping through that. How could you play this? I mean, there are ways to try to profit on the, if you were looking for it to even go down a little further from the short side. But then again, as Brian mentioned, at some point you'll see. I mean, this is a pretty strong emotional move. At some point, you might see that runs out of steam, and turns out to be some profit taking, and you see a bounce back to the upside. So I'd take a look at your binary options, where those probabilities are, and how much time is left in the day. I mean, this is the 3 p.m. one, so there's a full 6 hours still to go. So one way to kind of look at how you would play the pound, straight up on price action, barring any news. And as Brian mentioned, 10:30 in the morning Eastern is a time where you might see some retracements, so keep an eye there. All right, Brian, I'm going to flip it back over to you. I don't know if you want to talk quickly about the pound yen as well.
Yeah, here's the pound yen. I mean, the pound yen didn't have the same ascent. It didn't. Again, it wasn't going against the dollar, and obviously the yen is a little bit different than the dollar, the way that it plays based off the indices. We were looking for 152.29 yesterday. It still didn't get all the way up that high. It ended up turning at this lower level, which we mentioned. We said there's a level sitting in there. Of the two, when they're that close, we typically take the farther one. It turns out that the aggressive entry down here at 152 flat, it was the one to take today. And really, from 6:30 till now, it's been straight down. It did slice through a level that we were looking for a potential kind of, again, this was more of a market open type position. It was formed late at night, about 10:30 in the mornings, when this, or 10 to 10:30 at night. So is it the highest quality? Not really. And again, it's in the red zone, so it's not really the best. And it sliced right through. So right now, I think the two levels that people should be looking out for is there's a small level here. And again, this may be, again, the profit taking level for the shorts right now, which is located at approximately 150.93. One thing that I would look for, and again, if this is going to continue today, this is a lot of movement really, really fast. I mean, particularly from 6:30 with no real news. It's 105 pips. Daily ATR on this one right now is 105. Ooh. So yeah, it's one of those ones in 3 hours. This has done a really big move, and we would expect some type of a retracement. Is 105.86 the level? I wouldn't say that it's the highest quality turning point. Does it mean that it can't turn there? I mean, it's a little 5 pip range. I don't know. I would, if I was a betting person, I would say probably no. Doesn't mean that it can't. And again, maybe if we get that confirmation bounce here with the U.S. Open, when the U.S. retail trader and the yen starts getting some strength from the dollar market, maybe that could be where we go. But I would say a higher quality level. And again, this could be maybe not a today thing, but maybe tomorrow would be 105.50ish, 105.56. One way to play this is if we come down and we start basing in the small level, and we can actually increase it just a little bit. We could do probably there on the top of that. What you could do is look for their short here. and kind of put one of these positions in, saying, hey, listen, once it comes down in bases, that's kind of a telltale sign. Like, listen, it's eating up all the buy orders here. Can we get lower? And this would be 1 to 3 is sitting right there, which is fine because it is, in front of the opposing zone. So there could be a short in there if you guys are looking to take this one short. Like I said, of the two levels, I like the 105. I'm sorry, the 150.55 better than the
Down below.
150.86. But
Right.
it's already almost done an entire ATR in 3 hours with no. I mean, when we look, there is no major headlines whatsoever. I keep clicking to see if I missed something, but there is nothing over there. All the big news is coming in Thursday for them. There's some elections. There's some monetary policy. There's nothing really necessarily justifying this. Maybe the yen a little bit, but it's got to be more yen based than anything else at this point. But I mean, even euro yen, you're seeing a little bit of a pop down. But again, the yen is more or less can be considered a counter currency. It's not necessarily a driver. So it's odd that
Right.
everything is moving that quickly just from the yen.
Yep.
So.
All right. Just for the sake of time this morning, let's just do a quick peek at oil.
Yep. Oil's been the big move of the morning. We're up 1.43. So, this is where we were sitting yesterday morning. Again, talking about how, this was the European Open. We had kind of a pullback, and we were looking for new levels. Now, we had 64.68 was a level we were looking for. We hit it, we pulled back, we hit it again and pulled back. But we remember, we had 1 hit here, here's 2 hit, here's 3 hit. You guys know what happens on number 4. Boom, it got blown up. Now, here's the European Open, the candle, right? It's done nothing but go straight up since that time. From the UK Open till its peak was up $1.46. Again, you can go back and say, well, what was the news? What drove this demand? Again, there's not a lot of news out there. It doesn't mean things aren't going to kind of, move, but the European session has really been a driving factor. When we have zero movement, the US session is the big one. In this case, it was the dollar movement. So it was the UK session. So I would expect the US session to be not as popular. Like I said, 65, 61. When you look back, it was a level from way back. We had refined it, yesterday. But it's a level that we had talked about before being a potential area. And again, if you were taking the Harry Potter trade, we didn't really get the pullback, but we knew that we were going to have, again, on 4 breaks looking for this to push through. So at this point, I would say, you got to kind of keep this lower level. In any type of shorts, the 64, 68, kind of the original piece of this is probably important. Remember, the origin of the move is typically where we want to take retracements back to, which would be down here at approximately 64.43. So that, again, we have the oil inventory report tomorrow. This is a lot of movement the day before with no real kind of massive amount of news or no kind of earth-shattering headlines out there for oil. So, I mean, unless there's a war and I missed it, I didn't see any news from the Middle East where somebody, shot a missile at somebody else. But, it doesn't mean that there isn't other things out there. I mean, the only thing I think of is that there was a little bit of news about China. But for the most part, I mean, that shouldn't have been, it doesn't justify this kind of move. So, again, the technicals went out on this one, in preparation for tomorrow.
So, right. And by the way, I just wanted to drop this chart up because I personally find it interesting when I haven't pulled up the crude oil chart since Friday of last week. So it's been a few days, but it is interesting, this level here, and I'm going to extend it out now because, I mean, this is just an old level. This is exactly what Brian was talking about, which turns out to be that around 64.60. I think Brian said 64.68, but we're basically right there. Going to be an interesting level if things were to retrace a little bit, but we have had this pretty significant runoff. It started to turn around. It's still trying to find some support. I'd say binary options still probably a decent way to play these kind of moves. This actually brings up the lesson of the day. Trading around economic numbers. Brian mentioned it tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, U.S. oil inventory reports. And oil tends to be volatile. I will tell you, tomorrow, Brian and I will be taking a look at where oil is in the morning and starting to just put some ideas on what you might want to potentially consider if things are going to be volatile in oil. Now, the reason I'm mentioning that now, I dropped a link into the chat. If you want to learn more about trading around news events, particularly things like oil or gold, the boot camp we're doing today, I know most of the folks that are on this call aren't beginners, but if you register for the boot camp, you can join at 1 p.m. Eastern. You could just catch one of the 4 sessions. 1 p.m. Eastern, Brian is doing a session specifically on trading around economic news events. And if you register and you can't make it or you miss it, you will get an email to the link of the recordings, and it'll also give you an opportunity to request the slide decks. So even you register, you'll get the emails, even if you can't join the sessions or you only want to watch that later at your convenience. You'll be able to get the link to, and just pick Brian's session if you want, as well as request his slide deck. That is today at 1 p.m. It's the 3rd session in the middle of our boot camp this afternoon. And we will be talking about oil again tomorrow morning, because Wednesday is oil inventory day in the U.S. Brian, is there anything else you wanted to toss out there before we call it a day?
Yeah, I would say, guys, if you can, definitely get registered for today. One of the big things that, again, besides the oil inventory report, and again, it's tentative right now, but that typically means it comes true, is the EU economic forecast for tomorrow. So, we've mentioned multiple days that the UK session, here is one, here is one. The UK Open is a big mover, particularly for the oil markets. Having the EU economic forecast about what recovery looks like, when they can move interest rates for all the EU nations, that could be a big catalyst tomorrow morning. So there may be a big move early morning, followed up by oil inventory reports later in the day. So again, if you can pick something up today and be able to use it tomorrow, even just in demo mode, again, that's how you guys start your trading career. So
perfect.
It's about taking that first step.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. If you got any questions for Nadex, please email us, customerservice@nadex.com. Brian is also very accessible, and I love that people that you all reach out to him, leverage him, use him as a resource. Email Brian is available at support@keeptradingsimple.com. With that, we talked about pound weakness, just retracing after some recent run-ups. Some opportunity. Oil has had a run up, and we've got an economic event report coming out tomorrow, so something to be paying attention to. With that, I want to wish everyone good luck in the markets. Brian and I will catch you again tomorrow morning. Thanks, everyone.